Hello? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I hear you. You hear me?
Okay. Yes. Wait. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Good. I have little ear 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 thingies. Ear thingies.
That was
Ear.
Carol that was asking, can I hear you?
It's Kim. It's Kim.
Crap, I'm on the wrong
Okay, I
page.
recognize your voice, but I see Carol's also on via phone.
Jay's not home. Well, I did. I can try
You're breaking up though.
putting stuff in. Do you want to help me? Just start there. Oh, sorry. Ignore me. I'm bringing stuff in to the house.
Do-be-do. Oh, I don't see me. Oh, I know. Okay, there I am.
Is that it?
Yep.
Oh, this.
Hi, Bob.
Still breaking up.
Okay. Okay, thanks. Have a good weekend. Oh, me? Oh, sorry. I should mute myself. I'm outside the house, so I'm gonna break up because I'm not inside.
Speaker is aggregate.
Yeah,
Gotta
if
get all
I'm
my
being
audio
annoying,
setups
just
and everything
mute me.
setting.
That was
All
loud.
right. Test, test, test. I seem to be putting into the feed, although I'm not hearing anyone else back yet.
Can you hear me now?
We all talk at once. Can you hear me?
There we go. Now I can hear you.
Hi, Bob. It's Kim.
Hey, Kim.
Hi, Kim.
Hi, Charlie. Yeah, you'll be happy now. I have ear thingies. My friend asked me yesterday if I wanted headphones, and I said no. Because I said,
Breaking up, kiddo.
ear pods.
Looks like we have 8 people, but I only see 3.
They don't all have the webcams on.
Hi, Frank. Hey, Doug.
Hey, Frank, how's the hip doing? Frank is muted.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I got the mic on. The hip is doing pretty good. It's still, it didn't heal, the incision didn't heal fully, so now I have a little opening that we're working on, but should be good in another week or two, I hope.
Yeah. Duct tape probably fix that, huh?
Yeah, I gotta go see the surgeon and another doctor next week and see what he says. You know, I've been on antibiotics for 2 weeks to help keep it from getting infected or whatever, but it's interesting process.
I bet. Doug, it's good to see you again.
Oop,
That Tweety bird?
somebody's feeding back.
I got a ringing in my ears. Yeah. It seemed to me Carol lit up when that happened. So
I'm trying to turn off my phone and I can't figure out how to do it.
They make it trickier and trickier.
Hi, everybody.
Hey,
is
Linda.
that Linda? Hi.
Yes.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
That
Okay.
sounds like it might have been Shirley. Is it Shirley?
Yep,
No.
it's me.
Yeah.
Shirley.
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 All right. Okay, I'm just looking to see who's here on the side there. So we're waiting for Chuck, right, Steve?
Yeah, but we don't have to wait before you start the actual meeting.
All right,
me
looks
see.
like everybody, looks like our usual group is here. So if we want, we can start.
Uh-oh.
What?
I just got a message from Chuck.
Yeah.
He put it on the November calendar, not October.
Ah.
So does that mean he's not joining us, or he?
Let me read the rest of this thread. So Adam says he can make it this Wednesday, but Chuck can't. So let's see.
And Adam minutes later, right?
Yeah.
All right. So Adam was at 8:30. Is that what you said?
Yep. And that's interesting because every email I sent had October 11th in the subject.
So obviously he had in his mind that it was November and just ignored the October parts,
Yeah.
which I have done myself many times.
Well, today I was briefly thinking on the subject of the fact that I use printed wall calendars instead of like a calendar in the Mac or something, and I assume that people like Chuck use the electronic calendar. And in my case, I'm pretty concerned that I would fail to consult it or something, or somehow mess it up. So I'm just sticking with the things hanging on the wall.
I have a book calendar, paper, that I consult every day.
Exactly.
So I like Carol's calendar. She has one on the fridge that says today is. So you have no doubt what today is, right, Carol? Because sometimes you can stand there going, is this Monday? Is this Tuesday? What day is
I
this?
put the day and the date. And then I'm starting to put little check boxes for everything.
I do use my computer for that, the day and date, just to verify that because it's right.
I lost
All right.
everybody. I'm back now. Did I miss anything?
No.
Yeah.
No.
All right. So then do we want to start the meeting then? And we'll just take our break about 8:15. And then that way Adam will be ready at 8:30. That sound about right?
I'm gonna ask Steve to say something, please. So
Yeah, so you're still checking the YouTube link. I don't have mine open yet. Oop. Still trying to set everything else up. No, we got 9 videos online. Do you have, Shirley? Do you have the light on in front of you? Because
Yes.
you're awful dark.
Yes, I do have the light on, and I have the light on.
Well, the light behind you is maybe shadowing you, but we'll see.
Everybody knows who I am.
Yeah, that's what happens if you have a light behind you.
Okay. Close out of that.
Yeah, if you kill the light behind you, then you'll probably show up bright and pretty.
All right, let me do that.
Steve, I want to let you know that your volume came through well on YouTube. Okay.
Oh, good. Yeah, sure they turned off that light and now everything got brighter. That's weird. Turn off the light and it gets brighter.
Much better.
All right, maybe they were just canceling each other out.
Yeah.
All right, so then do we want to do, is everything set, Steve, that we can start?
I think so.
All right. Well, let's officially start at 7:12. Okay, so welcome to our October Apple Cider meeting. And I guess that's about it. I know Steve wants to do some news and blues and all the other crews that there is. Sorry. So
I was yeah. I was planning for.
I'll be like Nick.
Yeah.
All the ships at sea.
I was planning on Chuck for being here, bouncing news ideas off of.
Well,
Now we got.
I guess
yep.
now.
Let's see what's going on elsewhere.
Well, one question then: if he thought it was November, does that mean you can have him come back in November, give a talk?
Yeah.
So we can put him down potentially on our calendar for next month.
Yep.
All right, won't be the 11th though, so
It's
you have to send her.
It's November 8th.
Send him a reminder then. Okay, November 8th.
There are.
All right, very good. Mm-hmm.
See, there are rumors both ways about an October event. Mark Gurman said maybe, but Ming-Chi Kuo said no. So Ming-Chi Kuo knows the supply chain, and Mark Gurman knows the Apple developer. So there's a lot of expectation about an M3 iMac, because the M1 iMac is getting really old now. All the other computers are at M2 already. So there's an interesting dilemma about ordering an iMac and getting the in essence the slower chip with the M1, but it's so much faster than the Intel models that whatever you upgrade to, you're going to like it. And if you want bigger than the 24-inch monitor, then the Mac Mini M2 or even M2 Pro with a third-party 27-inch monitor is about the same price as Apple's old 27-inch iMac. So we've done a lot of those for people who want the bigger screen, and you end up with a faster computer anyway. So that they might have the iMac M3, the 14-inch and 16-inch will probably go to an M3 because those are the high-end models. So we'll have to see in the next week or so. Generally speaking, Apple gives about a week's notice if there's going to be an event. So since they haven't given any notice this week, there probably won't be an event next week. But there's another week after that, so maybe before the end of the month they might talk about something. That's always the thing with rumors. They might have something ready, but something else isn't ready that goes along with it. So maybe they'll just hold off everything until the spring announcements. So that's always the fun part about rumors, is that all the rumors are probably true. Just depends on when things actually get announced. So we're probably going to wait for Adam to talk about Sonoma. Has anyone upgraded their Mac to Sonoma yet? macOS 14.0.
No.
It's a little too new for me. I always like to say, don't install the .0s. Wait for at least the .1. Let other people find the problems. But I've been reading that a lot of people have upgraded to Sonoma and haven't had any major problems. The big question always in upgrading is to make sure your third-party apps are compatible. And so I rely on a program called OBS Studio. So I'm waiting for them to come out with some official statement about Sonoma. People have said it's running okay, but I'm sure waiting for something official. But iOS is up to 17.03 now, so they've had 3 patches, security vulnerabilities. 4, 8, 9, 10. Oh, we got 9. We got 10 people on the video now. So if we get enough people, maybe we'll see what the limit is. So that's a question. Everyone tends to see a different number of video screens on their computer, depending on the size of their computer screen and the power of their computer and the browser they have. So can anyone else see all 10 video screens?
No.
No.
Interesting. Who said yes?
Yes, I believe so.
Charlie, you've got all 10 at once?
Currently, not all at once. I have
Oh,
to
yeah.
switch back and
Yeah,
forth.
I get 6. on mine.
I get
I
6.
got
Me too.
That's
Ken just
interesting.
joined it.
Thanks.
Anyone else using the M1 Pro chip or M2 Pro?
M1.
So I've got an M1 Pro and I'm seeing 10. And with spots for 2 more, so theoretically I can get up to 12. That'll be neat. Yeah, if you look at the YouTube stream, you can see all 10 with 2 more spots open. Alrighty, so let's look in Apple's news forums and see if there's anything interesting there. I'm going to bring up a shared window from Apple's newsroom.
Just to
Make that big.
let people know, I got a Apple Watch 9,
Yep.
Ooh.
and it's pretty good. I had a 4, so it's a big jump. But the nice thing about the watch and a lot of Apple stuff is it doesn't take very much to learn because it's pretty much the same thing. There's some different things with stacks and how it operates, but I got one bug with it. Something is bugging me with it.
And what's
And
that?
Well, at night, the screen dims to the ambient light of either the room or if you're outside at night. And the screen is so dark, and I can't change the brightness on it. And from what I'm seeing is that you can't change it at night.
You may need to turn off the automatic brightness setting. Let me see where that might be. Because there's a mode where if nightstand mode they call it, I think, where if it's on the charger on your nightstand, it will dim everything down and just show you like the time and something.
Right.
Let's see, watch. And let's do turn off auto brightness.
Brightness.
All right. Somebody's putting a lot of noise into the system.
Who's moving stuff?
Maybe it's me. Oops, sorry.
It's amazing.
Mute.
It's amazing how sensitive the microphones are. Let's see. Here we go. A trick to bypass auto brightness. So you go into the watch. So you can do it on the phone in the watch app, or on the watch in the settings app.
Uh-huh.
It says turn on your flashlight, point it at the watch, and then the watch goes back to brightness again. Then you can turn the flashlight off, and the watch will stay brighter.
Huh. Well, let's see if that works.
And then you have the brightness slider in the watch under settings.
That doesn't change. Can't change that. I mean, you can change it, but it doesn't change the brightness at all at nighttime.
I think that changes the brightness while it's working, not necessarily the brightness. Yeah, that's the brightness while it's working, not the brightness when it's sleeping. So I had to turn my always on off because the brightness was too bright and the battery would die before the end of the day. So I had to turn the brightness down and see if that works.
Yeah, I just haven't been able to figure out.
Oops.
And from what I saw, that you really can't do anything about it.
Let's see.
But
If you can turn off the auto brightness is what I'm thinking. The sleep tracking. So I searched for sleep and it finds all the sleep tracking stuff.
right.
Yeah, display and
Well,
brightness.
I'll take a look and see if I can find it, but I haven't been able to find anything. Otherwise, the phone is nice. The battery is great.
Yep.
I've been wearing it all day, and it's still at 93%.
Wow, that's pretty good.
Well, in a related issue, Carol's phone, when she takes pictures outside, it's always too dark to see the picture. You know, the phone
Excuse me.
can't really see what you're taking a picture of because it's so dark. Doesn't happen on my phone, but we have identical phones.
Maybe
But on hers, you simply can't see. You gotta just kind of trust that you're aiming it at the right place. And
maybe she needs to turn her brightness up.
what, in settings?
Yeah, settings and display, or in the control center. No, then there's an auto brightness on accessibility. But yeah, settings and then display and brightness. There's a slider to raise and lower the brightness of the screen.
Just so I'm clear about this, the pictures come out okay. It's just that you can't see what you're shooting on the screen and when you're taking a picture, right?
Basically, when you're looking at it like through a viewfinder, it's dark.
Right.
Yeah, so that's probably what it is. The overall brightness is too low, is set too low. She may have auto brightness turned off because usually when you go out in the sun, it turns the brightness up so you can see the screen better.
Well, I'm in not home screen, display and brightness. Is that where I
Yeah.
should be looking?
Yep. And there's a slider there.
I see light and dark, two different, things that are automatic, text size, bold size, true tone, night shift.
There should be a slider to adjust the brightness. Technically, the brighter it is, the more the battery drains, but there are cases when you do want the display as bright as you can.
I see a slider that says raise to wake. Don't know what that is.
Well, that's a button on mine.
Yeah.
If you raise the phone, it wakes up, so that way you don't have to push any buttons on the phone to make it wake up.
Say it again.
When you raise the phone up, it wakes up, so it can read your fingerprint or Face ID. You don't have to push.
Oh, when we pick it up, you mean?
Right, when you raise the phone up off the table or wherever it's laying. Otherwise, you'd have to push one of the buttons on the phone in order to wake it up.
Well, I do see the slider now.
Quick reminder to everyone, if you're not talking, turn off your mic, just mute it.
Are you getting anything from me, Rick?
Yeah, I'm getting stuff from you. I'm getting stuff from Linda.
What kind of stuff are you getting from me when I'm not talking?
It's some kind of a sound. I don't know if that's you, tapping on your iPad or what it is.
Is it like this?
Squeaking kind of sound.
Yeah, it's a squeaking. Yeah.
Squeaking.
I think it's
all right.
Charlie. I think it might be your microphone picking up the speaker and then trying to feed it back into the system.
I don't know that I have a problem with that. One thing that does happen is I'm sitting here taking notes on a clipboard, and sometimes the clipboard rubs on the table the laptop is on, and consequently that lights up my name up at the top, so I'm trying to avoid that.
Yeah, so it
right
thinks
now right now I can't get out of full screen. Let me see if view comes up. View, exit full screen. No.
Is the lounge in full screen, or is your browser window in full screen? Because that can be two different.
I know what you mean. Yes, and I found the little
the three dots
collapse and
yeah.
Well, no, on the Monster Mind Lounge thing, there's a little 4 arrows pointing in up at the right corner where you can click and shut it down again. So then I can get to my mic, and this is the last you'll hear from me on that subject.
Yeah, it's amazing how sensitive the mic settings are, because it's trying to catch anything you happen to say, no matter how close you are to the screen. So if you're sitting back from the screen, it has to turn the gain up to catch what you're saying. All right, so that's manual brightness. There was also an auto brightness setting in the phone and the watch. What's that under? Accessibility. Well, that's a good place to hide it. General accessibility, display accommodations, and auto brightness. So then it will turn the brightness down in a dark room, so it's not so bright, and it will turn the brightness up in a light room so you can see the screen.
Are we doing general Q&A now or what?
Well, we kind of merged into it. I had asked people who have upgraded to iOS 17 or watchOS 10. Anyone get a new iPhone 15 yet? Anyone have the overheating problem that was reported? We had a couple of customers bring their phones in. One of the things that's very common after you do a system upgrade is it re-indexes everything. On the Mac, you actually get a little message saying that performance may be affected while the indexing happens. But on the phone, it can really affect your battery life and the heat generated by the phone because it's working really hard. But in this case, it was more than it should have been, and so Apple released the 1703 update, 17.0.3, running hot. I think that was the update that fixed it. Nope, some people are saying they're still too hot even after the 1703. But 1703 was also a security fix for a vulnerability seen in the wild. So one of the problems now is that since iOS 17 is out, Apple generally only supports the current system and one or two versions old. So with iOS 17 out, you have to be on 16, maybe 15, to still get any updates for these security updates. And so now that the new version is out, it has dropped off people with older phones. Yeah, so they did 17 and 16. They did not do 15 for this last update. So if you're running iOS 15, you need to upgrade. And if your device is too old to upgrade past iOS 15, that might be a time to consider upgrading to a new phone.
What's the oldest that'll work with 15?
Let's see. So you don't necessarily need to get an iPhone 15. You can get a 14 or 13, which are still available on the product page.
I just got an 11.
Let's see. iOS, no, that's 17. Let's go to 15. No, that is iPhone 15. I want iOS 15 requirements. There we are. So the oldest phone on 15 is the 2020 SE or a 6S. Yeah, so we had a customer today come in with a 7 and he was still on 15. He couldn't go to 16.
So the 11 should be fine.
For the 11.
Oh, the 11's fine.
Yeah.
The 11's on 16. Came with 16.
Yep. Yeah, go ahead, Charlie.
Does that mean that they don't even do security fixes on older iOSs?
It can depend on how severe the problem is. There have been a couple of cases where an extremely severe problem came out, and they released, I think, even a version 12, iOS 12 update, because there's still older models of good phone and iPad that were still running iOS 12. So with 16, it goes back to the second generation SE or the 8. So your phones generally will work for about 7 years of OS upgrades. So with the 8, we're now on 17. So that's what, 8 OSs would be 16. So we're at 9, and so that doesn't work with 17. So that's one of the problems of sticking with too old of a phone. The customer that came in today was having problems with Netflix, and the Netflix app requires iOS 16, and his iPhone 7 could only do 15. So that's when you start thinking about needing to upgrade. That's one thing that's nice about the SE. well, it's their least expensive phone at $429, but also it's the small phone, and a lot of people don't like the huge phone. So you can start with a relatively inexpensive phone as far as Apple phones go.
Hey, Steve, I noticed some icons up there. That you've got a camel, and then you've got another circle that sometimes
Oh.
becomes a ghost. What are those?
Well, the circle is Ghostery, and that's a tracker blocker. And so, not unusual, the Apple website only had analytics. If we go to, say, a news website, I always get a kick out of Democrat and Chronicle. So it knows I'm using an ad blocker. And I've seen sometimes hundreds of ad links show up on websites, especially news sites. Because that was the whole point.
Terrible.
Yeah, the whole point of a newspaper is to sell ads.
Ugh.
The news is just secondary. So I can tell it to pause, so I can get to that website, or I can pause it completely, so it never runs the ad blocker on that website. So now we're paused, and it will let me in to DNC. And then the Camel is a program that Dennis Worster told me about. This is Camel. And when you're on a Amazon page, well, it will look at your Amazon wish list, basically. And when you're on a item, it can tell you what the history of that item is. And so for this hard drive, 5 terabyte hard drive for $120. Well, yeah, okay, so today is Prime Big Deal. Yesterday and today is Prime Big Deal Day. If you're looking to buy something on Amazon, look now, because prices will go up tomorrow. But with Camel, it shows the fluctuation of that price. The green line is Amazon, the blue line is third-party new, and the red line is third-party used. So this drive fluctuates around $169 most of the time. So a $120 is pretty good, although a couple of years ago it was $110. So in June of 21 it was $110. In December of 21 it was $170. That's quite a jump. So it's a kind of a neat thing to track. Is that deal on Amazon really good? One of the things you always worry about, especially with Prime Days and things like that, did they raise the price? So the list price says $169. Did they raise the price just so they can have a higher discount? And this is the rugged one with the big rubber bumpers around it.
Yeah, so they could raise it and then lower it.
Yeah.
And get the same amount of money.
Yeah, these are
Well,
all for
that's
the
like
rugged.
they always do that with phones and things too. It's like was $899, now $299. It's like, yeah, it was $899 3 years ago, and it's like now you can get a newer one for $899. It's like, I hate that when they do that.
So here's a 5 terabyte non-rugged drive for $110. 4 terabyte for $101. So that's interesting. 4 terabyte for $101, 5 terabyte for $109. 250,000 reviews.
All right. Well, thank you for showing me that feature.
And they'll also email you. So things on your wish list, they will send you an email if the price drops. So the one thing about it is you have to give them your wish list address. But since most of the time your wish list is private, or I'm sorry, public anyway, because you want people to buy you stuff, there's not that big of a security risk. What's in my cart? What was I doing lately on the cart? Oh, we must have been talking about making mead at a meeting. $50 to make your own mead kit.
Oh, I've been going to the home brewing classes at Seed and Stone. Well, it's not classes; it's a club. Mead and cider.
That's kind of neat.
Yeah, it's fun. I'm learning a lot.
All right, let's go back to the newsroom. Anything else? Oh, tvOS had a couple of interesting things they added. They now are letting you do FaceTime on the Apple TV 4K. It's odd that they don't do it on the lower ones, so that you can use your FaceTime camera on your phone to do a FaceTime call through the Apple TV on your big television screen. So you can get a dock or just a stand to put your phone on your TV screen, or in front of your TV, and you can do FaceTime video calls with the giant a giant TV screen. And I'm in reader mode, and I didn't necessarily want to be. Nope, and just put me in there. A quick read, probably because nope, those are both quick reads. So how do I get to the full read? So there's some interesting things they also added into tvOS. The Siri remote locator. How many people have lost their remote? And so now you can make the remote show a symbol, so it'll tell you where the remote is. So on your phone, you can walk around the house until you find your remote.
Just for me, because I always lose them.
I keep expecting them to put some sort of little speaker in the remote so you can make it beep at you. Oh, and for anyone run out of the 2 terabyte cloud plan, find that to be not enough, then I'll have a 6 terabyte plan for $30 a month and a 12 terabyte plan for $60 a month, if you really need ridiculous amounts of cloud storage.
I have the 200 and I'm at 160, and I don't want to pay $10 for 2 terabytes.
I wish there was a 1 terabyte plan, because I need more than 200, but I don't need 2,000.
And $3 is negligible. $10 is
you start to think about it.
It's a bill.
It used to be the $10 used to be only 1 terabyte, so it was nice that they doubled that to 2. But I'm thinking, why don't they have like a $5.99 or $6.99 1 terabyte plan in the middle? And the answer is because they don't have to. How many people pay that 99 cents? A billion phones in your pocket, with most of them paying 99 cents a month.
Well, that's why I don't use iCloud.
Yeah. Yeah, you can set your phone up with other cloud services. Most of the cloud services cost about the same. So if you do manual backup and manual syncing, that's more tedious. And so it's nice to have that automatic, especially automatic backup and automatic photo syncing. You take a photo on your phone and it shows up on your computer automatically.
And on your other phone.
Yep. You have to decide if that's a feature that you're willing to pay for.
It is for me, or I would lose everything. I just broke my phone.
Yep.
I broke my SD. It restarts every 30 seconds. So I can get on it really quick, and then it restarts again. So.
And we hear that all the time from people who do manual backups. I was going to get around to it, but it's been a little while. And then if I can look at their backup drive, it's been 6 months. All right, well that's more than a little while.
My backup was the day I broke it, so I thought I was fine. But I'm curious about that because I transferred it down from the cloud because I didn't think the phone would stay long enough to transfer it. But when you do it that way, it didn't transfer all my passwords and apps like Uber and everything and all those. So if you transferred from the phone directly, would it transfer those passwords and apps and everything also?
That comes as part of iCloud Keychain. And then the app list is, yeah, if you do phone to phone, well, no, well, if you restore from backup, then it should bring everything back. If you just try to sync again, it may not bring everything back.
I did when the new phone. I was that what it's called? Restore from backup. You could either do it from the cloud or restore from or whatever from
Right.
cloud.
Or you can transfer from phone to phone.
So I did it from the cloud, but my Uber, I mean, it's not even having my account. It's like, get started. I mean, it'll let you log in, but I don't know. My passwords and things like that are going to want my phone number, which is old and I can't use it. Like I'm changing my passwords on everything, my MyCare account and all these things, but I just wanted it the same. I wanted literally, I wanted that phone to this phone. So it already had, because everything was stored.
Sounds like you might have might not have iCloud Keychain turned on, because all of your passwords should have been stored in iCloud Keychain and come back when you restore the phone.
No, I know I had to turn it on the new phone, so I probably didn't.
Yeah. So you go into your Apple ID settings and under iCloud and make sure iCloud Keychain is on each device that you want to see the same passwords. So when you create a password on your computer, it'll ask if you want to save that in the keychain, and you say yes, and then that same password will go over to the phone, and vice versa. So there's sort of two steps. You have to turn it on so it syncs, and then you have to say yes when it asks if you want to save that password. Technically, it is a security issue to have saved passwords, but they're saved under your iPhone password. And so there is that level of someone smacks you upside the head, takes your phone, and then holds it up to your unconscious face so the Face ID works. Actually, that wouldn't work because your eyes have to be open for Face ID to work. But Touch ID would work if you're unconscious. And then, so if someone has physical access to your phone, that's kind of the you're really screwed mess.
So if I had them off, which I did, I guess, on the SE, and then if it were still functioning and I transferred it from the phone, would it transfer the passwords or not?
I would think so. But let me see.
I was going to do that, but I didn't think it would get done in 30 seconds, so I didn't want to take the chance.
Transferring it from the phone is usually faster than from the cloud, but if the phone isn't staying on long enough, then you have to do a cloud transfer. Yeah, iCloud sync. Transfer passwords without iCloud. I would expect it would have. You can if you do a backup to a computer and then restore from that computer, that would work too.
I was in a hurry. I needed my phone numbers. I needed my notes. I needed everything. I just hurried. I just bought the cheapest phone. Did it as fast as I could because I needed a phone. Now, is that SD with what the problem I just described? Is that something fixable or is that like gone forever?
Well, you'd have to get that device to power on and turn password syncing on. Then they would go up to the cloud, and then on the new phone, they'd come down from the cloud.
Oh, even though I've already transferred it, it still would?
If you haven't erased the old one yet.
Oh, no. Will the old one still function? Is it fixable, or will it always be resetting every 30 seconds?
Well, it's everything is fixable. It just depends on how much it's going to cost to fix it.
Too much.
Yeah. Or if you have passwords saved on another device, you can turn the password syncing on there too.
Yeah, the 6S Plus comes on. It's just got lines through it. Good idea.
You can plug into an external monitor to be able to see the screen fully that way too.
I don't like the 11.
It doesn't say specifically. It seems to imply that password syncing will go from your backup or your iCloud keychain. I would have thought without the iCloud keychain on, it would still store your passwords. So if you don't have iCloud photo syncing turned on, then your photos are in the backup. So I would have expected that if iCloud keychain is not turned on, your keychain would be in the backup. But maybe not. iCloud keychain backup.
Are we still in news, or can we go to Q&A?
Well, we've sort of merged into Q&A.
All right. Does that mean I can ask a question now?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. I ran into a problem with my email. I used to have Gmail accounts, and of course, when they went to a paid subscription, I decided I was going to dump them, and I already had another resource that I could use for my emails. So I created new emails with the same name.
And the same domain. That's also a feature of iCloud Plus.
Yeah, and then I found that when I would send out mail, the Mac Mail got confused, and it didn't know which account I was trying to use. So it would like try all of them, and then finally give up, and then I would have to tell it which SMTP server to use. And that was getting to be a real pain. And when I talked about this before, there was a suggestion that was made that what I needed to do was take all of my old emails out of the old Gmail account box and drag them over to my new account inbox. And then I could delete the old one, the old Gmail account. And so I did that, and I was happy for a while. And everything was there. And then one day, as I was actually looking at my email, I saw thousands and thousands of emails disappear out of my inbox. I wondered what the heck was going on. And I looked it up and realized that what had happened was, because I was using IMAP, the host computer out there and on the internet decided that it would sync all of my stuff, and stuff that it found that wasn't already on their side of things, it decided was crap and deleted it.
It thought it had been deleted. Yeah. I would have guessed that was more a settings issue rather than an actual mail issue, that you have an outgoing SMTP server list and you can delete the servers you're not using anymore. And for each mail account, you can specify a specific mail server. So iCloud, you would give it the iCloud server. Google, you'd give it the Google server. Time Warner, Spectrum, you'd give it the Spectrum server.
Yeah, I had already done that. I was using that for the new accounts. I was using the new server settings. But when I copied all of those emails, they were fine for a while in the inbox of the new account. But when it synced through IMAP, that was when their server decided to say, hey, this didn't originate here. Let's get rid of it. And now I discovered that I do have some folders that were created that said recovered emails. And I noticed that thousands and thousands of emails were now in these recovered email folders. But I'm wondering if there's a time frame in which I have to do something with those, or they'll automatically go away after 30 days, or what?
That depends on your mail provider.
And these are folders that are in Mac Mail.
But are they on the computer or are they on the server?
I'm assuming that they're on my computer because that's where they're showing up. But
No, that's
maybe
not a
not.
valid assumption.
Okay, and then the other problem is, okay, so those emails are there. That's a relief, although I've got to figure out where I'm going to copy them to now and how and the whole bit. And then the other issue was all of my sent emails for about a period of 2 years, they're all missing. And they don't seem to be in a emails recovered type folder.
You may want to restore from backup your entire email folder.
Well, then that's the next issue. I do have a time machine backup, but as to, you know, how far back I need to go and how I would do that to find which day it is that I had everything that I wanted and which day I didn't, that's going to be a mess.
Yeah. If you look at your mail window, there's a section called On My Mac, and those are the folders that are only on your Mac. And
Okay.
then there are other sections for the IMAP folders. So in this picture, iCloud is IMAP folders. So these folders, you see them on your Mac, but they're synced to the cloud.
Okay.
Let me see if there's another picture that has more accounts. So the more IMAP accounts you have, yeah, no, this one doesn't have it. The more IMAP accounts you have, the farther down that list will go. And it shows you what's on your computer separately from what's on the IMAP server. There's one.
Okay, all of these recovered messages folders are appearing under the On My Mac.
Okay. So the Mac Mail program saw them somewhere, maybe from the Google account that doesn't exist anymore, and tried to bring them back.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So
how am I going to do this recovery?
Probably the easiest way is to restore your mail folder. Let me find the newest one and where it might be. Yeah, it's in your user folder under library under mail, and then there's a version number for whatever version of mail you're using. And then in that folder are all of the mail folders. So you might want to probably look through your backups and see which one of those is the biggest folder. And when the messages got deleted, that's when the folder would have gotten smaller. Although it depends if it moved them into the deleted folder first and then deleted them from the deleted folder.
So there's really no way to do that from within mail itself. I can't like run Time Machine and be running mail and somehow look at a previous version of mail running.
Each message is an individual file. I've never tried that, but it might work. If you're in your mail program, enter Time Machine. Nope, this is telling you to go into that subfolder. And then you'll find the messages and can import them. You can either restore the entire folder in one shot, or you can import those folders into your current mail database.
If I rename any, does that cause an issue?
If you rename them on the desktop, the mail program will probably lose track of them.
Oh, great.
All right, I have to turn on my pause ad blocker here. So recover, what's the date on this? This is 2018. Don't know if this is still valid and what OS it's valid in. And the picture's missing. So if you're in the Mail app and you enter Time Machine, it may let you see the previous mailboxes and restore them. But I would guess it wants to do the whole mail database in one shot.
All right. Well, I guess I'll just have to maybe create a test drive or something and play with it and see if I can get it to work. And then once I've got it, then I'll copy it over to where it needs to be.
Yeah, you can make a new user account too, and start there.
That's a good idea too.
I have a question about this, Rick. When did Gmail go to a paid version? Is that only for people using more than 15 gigabytes of storage?
It's only.
It was for businesses.
It's for people that have custom domains. So if you have your own domain name, then Google started paying for it. You used to be able to get 100 email addresses for free, and that was the account we had for a long time. Then it was 10 addresses for free, and now it's $6 per address per month. You can still get a gmail.com address for free, but if you want to use your own custom domain, that's part of Google Workspace, which is now $6 per month per address.
Okay, thank you.
Alrighty, well, thank you, Steve. Appreciate it.
Yeah, so that was the sneaky thing about Google. So it started in 2006 for free. And when did they start making you pay for it? 2020. Google Workspace in 2020. 2021. You have to go to hosted. Legacy free accounts. Yeah, so 2021, 2022 is when they started charging for what used to be G Suite and now is Google Workspace for custom domains. But that's one of the features of iCloud Plus. So if you're paying the $3 a month for 200 gigs of storage, you can have your own custom domain. So you could have Charlie at charlieberinger.com if you wanted. If no one else has already taken it. That's always the trick thing with domains, is no one else has to have taken it. I read stories about people at like a public coffee shop or something, and there's a loud table next door coming up with business ideas, and as soon as they find the best company name they've ever thought of, the guy at the other table registers it first.
Is that where this thing comes up about master of your domain?
Yeah. Either they want to punish the people for being so loud in the coffee shop, or I own that domain now, maybe you'll pay me some money for it.
Right.
Well, that's why you shouldn't discuss such things in coffee shops.
Yeah.
Either that or just write stuff down to each other.
In the public, yeah. Every now and then, I'll look at StephenRay.com. Doesn't exist. No, because I spelled it wrong. And, yeah, so it's a parking site. So now I'll start getting emails. Are you sure you want to, you want to buy this domain? And let's see how much they want for it. $70. That's actually not too bad right now. But there's a famous actor, Stephen Ray. He's always the buddy of the leading man in some pretty big movies. But the more popular your name is, the higher the price is usual. Let's try what's Apple Cider going for? Apple Cider we can have for $10.
You could do the same with your name if you wanted.
Yeah.
Use a hyphen.
Or if I do SteveRay.com. Yeah, $11. Estimated value $1,200. Yeah, there's a fake thing.
Get it.
Yeah. Well, there was a big thing from William Shatner. Excuse me. apparently someone had already bought WilliamShatner.com, and when he went to set up his own website, he had to buy it from them. That's why you'll often see celebrity websites, or it can be something like The Real, whatever, or the Genuine whatever, because someone else has already bought it. There was a big mess in Russia. Well, it looks like they've figured that out. So Kodak.ru was a Kodak dealer in Moscow, and so he registered Kodak.ru, and when Kodak company wanted to move into Russia more, they wanted that domain back, and he said, no, it's mine. So it's my company. I've been here forever. So Kodak tried to went through the ICANN, which is the International Consortium of Network Naming, I think it is, and they basically said, no, this other guy's had it for this long. You can't have it. So they had to buy it from him. You often see that with big companies. When Exxon and Mobil merged, I heard stories about companies that bought every combination of Exxon and Mobil, ExxonMobil.com, MobilExxon.com, X ill and Mo on, and hoping that the company would then come to them and pay for that domain name because they wanted it. But there can be big money in domain names. You can register a name hoping someone else is going to want it later and pay you for it. Usually not, though. It's like any speculation. It's got to be money you're willing to lose.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
I have an iMac question. It's running Catalina 10.15.7. Is it capable of being on my iCloud?
Sure.
Oh, it is on my iCloud?
Yeah, in system settings, system preferences, because they renamed that a few years ago. You would go into the Apple ID setting. Let me try to find a picture. Here it is. So you go to Apple account, or it might say Apple ID, and then you can sign in with your Apple ID and password, and then be able to start synchronizing the things you want to sync to iCloud. So
okay.
you can check on the services you want to sync to the cloud. Here's a better list, which will then come down to your other devices as well. So you start in that Apple ID section. In many earlier OSs, it was called iCloud, but then they expanded it to do all of Apple ID services, including your passwords and payment and shipping information and purchases. So all of your Apple ID stuff, rather than just iCloud, and now under the single Apple ID system preference.
Oh, thank you.
Yep.
I have another question.
All right.
I probably have 20 questions with this new phone, but what we were talking about, where do I can't find in the SE the section to turn the password and keychains on.
Basically where we were already for the computer, in settings, and then under Apple ID. iPhone, Apple ID settings. It should be the first setting in the settings list. Here's a dark picture of it, but it's at least dark. So the very first setting is your Apple ID. And then under that will be all of the different services that are available through the Apple ID. So here it is with a light screen. And you would go into the iCloud service. Here's another picture here. iCloud service here.
I'm not seeing pictures on the phone.
Oh, your screen's too small. Okay. So it's settings, Apple ID, and then iCloud, and then passwords.
Okay, that's how it is on the 11. So it's settings. I just went out of it. Oh no, on the 11 it's settings and then iCloud plus, and then under that there's passwords and keychain.
Yeah, there's a separate section for the iPhone passcode. You want to be in the Apple ID settings to be able to turn on the iCloud keychain.
No, okay. Now I get myself out of it.
So
Now,
which should
on some of the phones and some OSs, I haven't figured out which one, it only shows a couple of the iCloud settings, and then there's a button that says all iCloud services. So you may have to hit that all services first.
Okay, I'm trying to get them like synced up. Okay, so I went to Apple ID. Oh, no. Update Apple ID settings. Would that be it?
No. The Apple ID settings themselves, which is the first settings in the settings app.
Apple ID. Password. Oh wait, I think password and security. Okay, I found it. I think.
No, that's where you change your Apple ID password.
Nope. Oh no, it's on the 11. It's under iCloud.
On all the phones,
Okay.
it's under iCloud.
Okay, I got it. Wait. Okay, I got it. I think. Yes, got it.
And then that shows you all the iCloud services.
How simple, except it was just in a different place. This one isn't quite as upgraded with the iOS either.
So Steve, should we do our break before Adam comes on?
Probably. Does anyone else have any questions before we break?
Yeah, I have an update on that level lock.
Sure.
I did buy it. Instructions say you can do 10 minutes, and it took me 2.5 days. Because it does work. I finally got it to work, and I can lock and unlock my door from my phone or my watch. But, you know, some of the caveats of that is Bluetooth. So you got to have your home pod somewhere within range of your door.
That's interesting.
You know,
it's not Wi-Fi.
No, this is Bluetooth. It's not Wi-Fi. And then when I was trying to set it up, you know, it says on the back of the folder it gives you the QR code to set it up to go to home for your home, you know, thing. And then it says, you know, why it's an 8-digit number. You know, nowhere I found it. I ended up calling their help desk. 45 minutes was very good, but this number they wanted is on the QR code. You know, so their instructions that you get with them are not really complete, but it does work very well.
Is it badly translated Chinese, maybe?
It's all U.S., but it, you know, they show a picture of it, and then the thing of it is, you can adjust because sometimes your bolt hole is different lengths, and by pressing on the thing that comes out, you can extend it. And I didn't realize it at the time, and I modified the doors, and I had to put the door back. You know, different things. So there's some steps in there that are not intuitive, but their help desk is very good, and I can take and put on my phone, and let's see when I bring up my phone here, and I don't know if you can see it on there, and there's my app on my phone, and all I have to do is push that thing into a lock and unlock the door.
Cool.
I've done it from over a mile away. It also keeps a record every time the door was locked, unlocked, manual, or with the app.
Yeah, so you can catch your kid who is supposed to be home at midnight but really came home at 2 a.m.
Yes. But it did work. It took me, I looked at all the different things, but it does work. It just took me a thing. I just had to move my HomePod closer to the door because it is Bluetooth.
Yeah, and this is the one that had a physical key. So if the power goes out or you lose your phone, you can still use a physical key.
Yes, and then the other thing is, when you change it out, you got to be careful what lock you have there now. My old lock was not compatible. I had to buy a new outside lock. I bought one that you can change your key, so I was able to rekey it to my old key.
Oh, cool. Keep your same key.
So I use my same key, and because QuickSet has where you can rekey. And then I had Westlock or something use QuickSet tumblers. So I was able to rechange it to my old key. So it works very well. So if you have any questions, you can always call me. I'm an expert at it. Or their help desk is very helpful because I was on line 45 minutes with her and she waited for me to do everything and it was very well. So they're very good help.
Well, that's good.
So,
All right, let's take our 15-minute break so we can be ready by 8:30 for Adam.
Alrighty. And I think I'll leave that up for now, and we can all look at the. Oh, Adam's here already. At least he's in the list.
Oh.
All right. So the rest of us can all take a break, and Adam can figure out how to join. Probably not. I think we used Mastermind last year. I forget how long ago we've been using Mastermind. All right, I need to go there for a minute. All right, so let's mute.
Okay.
I just got a new device for monitoring my glucose.
Is it easier?
It sticks on my arm right there.
That's cool.
And then with my phone, I can just put it up to it and it gives me the reading.
That's nice. They're good for something.
Yeah. Gives me graphs and, charts and stuff like that. The new one doesn't even require that you do that. It just constantly monitors and goes right to the app.
I don't like the 11. It's too small. It's hardly bigger than the SE. It's narrow and long.
I got the 8 and it's small, but it's the size I like.
I like my
big ones-
CIS Plus.
The big ones, you slap in your pocket and you just got this huge thing.
Maybe it's my imagination, but I liked my CIS Plus a lot.
Well, that
I
was
don't like this.
that was the biggest phone, and now you've got the Mini, which is the smallest phone. They
So the
actually
6S Plus was bigger.
way bigger. That's the 6.7 inch, the plus size, which is the size of the Maxes now. They actually stopped making the Mini after the 13, so there's no 14 Mini and there's no 15 Mini.
So there wasn't an 11 mini. The 11 itself is a mini.
No, there's the 11, the 11 Mini, the 11, the 11 Pro, and the 11 Pro Max.
Is the 12? Now I remember looking online. The 12 and the 11 are the same. Are they the same size, but the screen's bigger in the 12, or is the screen the same, but the 12 is smaller?
Screens are the same size between the Mini, the regular, the Pro, and the either the Plus or the Max.
The screens are the same size?
Yeah, the 12 Mini is the same size as the 11 Mini.
Oh, no, I mean the iPhone 12 and the iPhone 11. Is the screen bigger in the 12?
No, the 11 and 12 are exactly the same. The 11 Plus and the 12 Plus or 12 Max are also the same. The 11 Mini and the 12 Mini are the same.
I thought I read that the 12, the screen goes all the way to the edge, and the 11 doesn't.
They started that on the 10.
Why is the 11 called 10 in the settings and stuff about?
Well, the 10 and the 11 were two different models. There was the 10, the 10S, the 10S, the 10R, the 10S Max.
Oh, the X.
And then the
That
11.
was X. When you go into like the settings of the 11, it calls it iPhone 10.
The model or the name?
Oh yeah, probably the model. I don't know. I'm like, that's confusing.
Well, if the model says it's a 10, then it's a 10.
Oh, I don't know.
If the name says it's a 10, it picked up the name from your last phone.
Where's that? General?
The first thing under settings general about is the name.
General about, name, iPhone 10.
That's what you named it, so you can name it anything you want.
I didn't name it.
Below that is the model. Somebody using the phone named it.
Can I change that?
Yep, just tap on it and you can change it.
Oh, good. iPhone 11.
It picks up the name from the previous phone if you migrate.
That was easy. Oh, from the SE maybe.
But then below that, there's a model name, and that will give you the what the actual model is.
Yeah, 11. But I didn't name my iPhone SE iPhone 10 either, and I bought that one new.
May have been before that then.
It's too narrow, too long. So how much better is a 12 than an 11? Is it worth $50 more? Is it worth
Well,
$200 more?
they don't sell the 12 anymore. So now that the 15 is out, they only go back to 14 and 13. But you can look at the differences between the 11 and the 12 on their comparison sheet.
Yeah, there's not much except like slightly better camera, slightly better. And I thought there was something about the screen.
Better neural engine. The Pro models always have an even better camera.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the 13s to be cheap enough so I can get because they, I think, had the start of the really good video cameras, didn't they?
Well, each model has been better than the last. So if we do 12.
But wasn't the 13 more like the rack focus and stuff like that, where you could really do good stuff? Didn't that start on 13?
Let's see. Portrait with focus and depth controls. So the 12 has a depth control but not a focus control. The 11 has a depth control but not a focus control. Same MagSafe. Same display size. Same pixel count. 13 is brighter than the 12. Yeah, the 13 had the faster chip in it. Let's see. Sensor shift optical stabilization versus regular optical stabilization.
What does that mean?
Better image stabilization to cut down on shaking hands while you're taking pictures.
I just remember someone showing me his 13 and that it would do, and showing a filmmaker friend showing me how it did the rack focus. I said, oh, that's cool. But that was when 13 was new.
I think that's a iOS feature, not necessarily a camera feature.
Oh, I haven't tried because I didn't know it would do it. I don't know how you do it. Do you just tap on a different subject and it goes there?
Yeah. You tap on the background subject and it focuses on them. I liked their TV commercials they had.
Hello and welcome to another Digimedia tutorial.
That's not what I wanted. I like the one with the two cops. That so it was the 13 Pro was the first one to add the rack focus. It looks like. Two cops in the car, and the cop in the foreground is saying, "I'm the important one because that's the focus is on me." And then the cop in the background racked in focus, and then he says, "Well, I guess maybe now I'm the important one."
I seem to remember that now that you mention it. It's driving me crazy not having the home button. I keep touching the bottom of my screen.
Yeah, swipe up from the bottom. That eventually it becomes as second nature as pushing the button.
I also keep picking it up upside down and wondering why it's not coming on, because I'm used to touching the home button to know which is the front.
Yeah, I always have to look at where the charging port is.
One thing you might try if you're new to the Face ID phones is swiping along the bottom to switch apps.
Yeah, that I Googled. But I had to have someone show me how to get the flashlight. I'm like, how do I bring those up? And he's like, oh, diagonal from the top. I'm like, diagonal? I never would have figured that out.
It doesn't have to be diagonal. It just has to be from the top right.
Which
Yeah.
which is
You go-
different. You get different settings from the top
Yeah.
left.
Yeah,
Oh, what's
precisely.
top left?
Notification center.
Oh, okay. I'm so used to swiping from the bottom to get my flashlight. Like, ooh, flashlight.
And it looks like there are other apps that give you rack focus on older phones.
Oh,
Filmic, I've read really good things about. One of the things it can do is record from both cameras at the same time. So that they've talked about that in documentary mode. So you as the interviewer can be filming the subject, and you're filming yourself at the same time, and you don't have to go back and film in your reaction shots later.
oh, I missed you. I lost you. You as the interview can be filming the what?
So it'll film from both cameras at the same time. So you can film yourself asking the questions and the other person answering the questions in one shot, instead of needing
Now,
to go back and reshoot your reaction shots.
see, I want the telephoto lens, and unfortunately, I wish I'd bought the 8S Plus instead of the 6S Plus when I bought the 6, because that was a cheap phone that had the telephoto. Now you need the Pro Maxes to get the telephoto, and those are expensive. But I want the telephoto. If you had a telephoto, could you record that at the same time?
Just the Pro has the telephoto. You don't need the Pro Max.
Yeah, it's still expensive.
But if you want the ultra zoom, then you need the Pro Max.
Can you record two back cameras at the same time?
That's in the app. It's called Filmic.
Okay.
Let's see what 12 plus or no, that's just Dolby Vision HDR. Let's see what does it say what phones it works on? No, so let's go look at Filmic. Compatibility. iOS 14 or later. So that will limit a little bit about what phone it works on. So it doesn't look like it has a phone limit, it's just an iOS limit. And it's got a free trial if you want to play with it before you actually pay for it. Although the full app was only $15, I think, yeah.
I figured
then there's a
someday I'd
cinematographer's kit.
Oh. Does it come with external storage?
No. Bending Spoons. That's a good company name.
Is it a good company?
Yeah, they've got a really good reputation.
What do they do?
This Filmic app.
Oh, okay.
Apple highlighted them a couple of times in different events.
I kind of figured it wasn't worth my buying a phone with more storage until I got a phone that would really do good video. So until I get, a 13 Pro, you said, or better, then I'll get more storage so I can shoot video. I don't think it's worth it with the cheaper phones. It's not worth the storage to pay for it. So someday when I'm settled and have money.
There's and always the next phone will be better, which then pushes down the previous phones.
Right, that's why I'm waiting. I mean, 11. Actually, I found a 12 for $200. Purple. Well, they wouldn't let me buy it somehow. Kept not taking my info. Like, I entered the info. So I just got the 11 because I needed it fast. Different company.
Hey, Adam's here.
Hey, Rick.
How you doing?
All right.
Turn off my screen share. Yeah, but now we got all the people.
Everyone got big.
So can I see presentation on the phone?
I
swear I
don't
have
know.
before.
I would try swiping in the on the website. I haven't tried it yet. Let me log into it on my phone. Yeah, so Adam, I went back through my emails, and every single one of them to you and Chuck said October 11th, and somehow he got November out of it.
Oh well, no, so no, it was the other way around actually. That
Was it?
he pulled out last year's discussion where I said I couldn't do it in October. So he had the wrong year. And so he was missing he had the year wrong rather than anything else. Still, it was amusing. I was like, huh, I said I could make it. I wonder what his problem. And I went and looked like, oh yes, that you're replying to the 2022 messages.
So
Easy
we can
mistake
just
to make.
invent time travel. We were talking about that.
You don't want to do that because then I wouldn't be here. So
yeah.
Time travel movies mess with my head. I always trying to logic through and make them make sense. Oh. There's always something that just doesn't quite compute. No matter how good they are, there's always something that catches me.
Yeah, I'm on my iPhone 11, and it's showing me the presentation.
Compare iPhone models.
Yeah, so I've got a website shared in the lounge.
Okay, I got it.
With all the people at the top, I can now scroll through.
Yep, I got it now. I'm an idiot. The little monitor was off.
Yeah. Adam, were we using the Mastermind Lounge last year with you? I don't remember.
No, last year we used Zoom.
Yeah.
But the previous year I had the Mastermind Lounge link, and it was something about how you were going back to Zoom for last year. So that's why when I was digging around, I found the old link.
And we've got the lounge link on the CIDER website too. It's it's run by it's a local company, and Nick Francesco, who does the radio show with me, he's the CTO and does a lot of the back end coding.
Yeah.
It's based on Big Blue Button conferencing software, and because it works in a web browser and doesn't need any client downloaded, a lot of their very novice people can use it better than Zoom.
Right.
Although he did say he's got one guy that insists on using an iPhone, and every time a phone call comes in, the phone answers it, and it jumps him out of the meeting. He said, "Well, turn on Do Not Disturb." Well, that's another thing he has to learn how to do.
Always something.
Always
something.
Some people just insist on being angry.
The only practical bad thing is you can't expand it on the iPhone. You can't, so it's hard to see the presentation.
If you rotate it, it will fill your screen, but the screen itself is so small anyway.
If I rotate it,
they
actually
could
gets
make
smaller.
you an iPhone Pro Max when it would do that.
Yeah. Let's try that again.
When I rotate mine, it gets smaller. Is there a way to go full screen with the...
All right, let me try that again. So screen share has started. And if I rotate, it's still putting the people first. Yeah, because it's a web page, it doesn't have that full screen option. Oh well.
Oh, well, maybe next month I'll have the computer again.
All right, so let me stop sharing that. Well, shall we welcome Adam?
Welcome, Adam. Hi, thank you.
No snow this year yet.
No, that's but it does look like you're not doing anything in person these days, so no need to make the drive anyway. Then.
Yep. Yeah, we tried to have an in-person meeting earlier in the spring, and only the people on the board, few people on the board showed up, and then got into the remote meeting while they were at the church we met at. We did have an in-person picnic, which was nice.
So, and part of the reason why I can only come at 8:30 is I have a president of the Finger Lakes Runners Club, and our board meetings are the same night, or second Wednesdays, and those end around 8. And we had the same thing, that after, we can have like one meeting a year in person, and then it's like, oh, that was a lot of fun, we should do that again. And then when you're like, okay, when do we have the next meeting? I'm just like, well, let's do it via Zoom. It's just so much easier.
Yep.
So the meetings are not as interactive and don't quite work as well, but they're just so much easier than making 15 people drive all around the county. So
especially as it gets into winter and you got to deal with
Yeah.
the weather. But it was
Yeah.
the whole point of the meeting was to go out, to a bar afterwards. So
dinner first, bar afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
in fact,
I have a comment on that. Next week I can bring it up at the board meeting.
Yeah, we're trying to schedule our December board meeting at the Old Toad, which is a British pub in town.
My new apartment might be just around the corner from there.
Oh yeah,
and has a free meeting room to use.
Nice. Yeah, one of the new things about the Old Toad is that they're part of the restaurant and hospitality program at RIT, or is it U of R? One of the colleges. So they get people in from England as that want to learn restauranting.
So they actually can do the accents too.
Yeah. Yep.
and they know their Guinness, so it's all good.
Yeah.
Oh well, I do not have a presentation here tonight, so the question is what you guys want to talk about.
Can I interrupt briefly here? Steve, can we do a volume check for you and for Adam to make sure it's coming out on the YouTube video, okay?
I thought I was.
Can you hear me talking there?
Yeah, all right. So it looks like my session had to rejoin. Okay, now we're all coming back. So apparently it didn't like me turning my iPad volume up. Okay. Test. All right, I am not hearing you guys. It was all working before. Let me mute and unmute. Logitech headphone. Aggregate device. Multi-output device. Test. Are you hearing me? Okay, I am not hearing you guys. But my voice is getting into YouTube, just not coming into the lounge. So the joke is it's like a seance. Is anyone there? Can you hear me now? So if I do that. Alright, somebody say something. That's interesting. Let me unplug and replug my heads. Multi-output. I can hear me coming out of Shirley's speakers, but I don't hear me coming out of the lounge speakers. Let me try this.
think
There we
he
are.
went downstairs to see YouTube on the TV.
I want to lose Adam's comments from the YouTube video.
All right, now I can hear you guys again. Can you hear me again?
Yes.
Okay. You said didn't like me turning the volume up on my iPad. All right. Did you want to share your screen, Adam, or
No.
just chat?
No,
Okay.
just chat. So. All right. So YouTube video working? YouTube audio working now?
I think we're good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. So yeah. So I guess the question is, what are people most interested in talking about? We could certainly cover kind of new stuff in the operating systems. In some ways, they were an interesting set of operating system updates, just like the iPhone 15, in fact, where they're relatively small in terms of like the user experience doesn't change a lot. So I think Apple kind of, I don't want to say bolted things on, but they were not trying for a knock it out of the park operating system release this year, and so you can tell particularly when they lead the Sonoma feature page with new screensavers. Like, woo, okay then, we've got the same screensavers you got on the Apple TV. Go team. So I think they're not huge updates in that regard. But just a quick show of hands, how many people have updated to Sonoma? Any people? Kind of waiting on. I have to switch video, and the video's being slow, so I can't. I've lost everyone. There we go. So it doesn't look like many people upgraded to Sonoma. How about
No,
iOS
not
17?
yet. No, not yet.
Not yet. Yeah, iOS 17. Anyone? Not a lot of 17 stuff either. Okay.
We've had a couple of patches of iOS already, so that may make it a little better. I usually wait for at least the first patch.
Yeah, so we've had a couple of quick updates to iOS 17, but those have been security based, and one bug fix for iPhone 15 overheating problems. Apple was very concerned because the reports about the iPhone 15 overheating came out, and people are like, it must be the titanium frame, and Apple's like, no, it's not the frame. They didn't want to put all that money and vast amounts of money, I'm sure, into designing the titanium frame for the iPhone 15, only to have it, get tarred and feathered for causing overheating problems. But it does seem that the overheating problems that people were talking about were related to three things. One was a bug in iOS 17 that Apple fixed. Another was, this is totally reasonable, when you upgrade to a new iPhone, a lot of background housekeeping has to take place. And so they really, the processor works pretty hard for the first day to 3 or 4 days. When I got mine, I noticed it for the first, 6 hours or something like that. I mean, it was hot. It was too hot to put in your pocket, put it that way.
On the Mac, you get a little warning that that's going to happen while the Mac is optimizing.
Precisely, and that is exactly the same thing that's happening on the iPhone. It's really optimizing all of its, all of its caches have to be rebuilt. It's got to reindex stuff, all sorts of little things like that. So, and if nothing else, I mean, what did it for me when I upgraded to the iPhone 15 was I had to download all the apps. So bringing everything in from the App Store and bringing in backups and stuff like that, data was just took some time and really, really heated it up. And then the third thing was buggy apps like Instagram. Gee, surprised that Meta's apps were. I believe the comment was that Instagram was using 1% of battery life per minute. So. Yeah, the phone got hot. It was basically toasting the poor thing. So so just deinstall Instagram, never use it, you'll be fine. They did fix that, but nonetheless. So iOS 17 we have not seen a 17.1 yet. That's probably coming 3 to 5 weeks, somewhere in that range. I know it's in beta right now, and so that's where Apple will probably do a few, some more bug fixes, and possibly roll out a few of the features that were promised but not yet shipped. There's the Journal app, which I don't know. Seems to me that might be cool, but it seems to me pretty much anyone who's doing journaling on an iPhone has probably figured something out already. So they probably are not going to be super interested in switching off whatever they've got unless the Journal app is truly fabulous. So that said, I'm slightly vibrating here because I want to actually look at my phone while I'm talking, but my phone is actually doing continuity cameras, so it's up there and I can't touch it.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about the camera and FaceTime on the Apple TV feature, which is kind of neat.
Yeah. I have not gotten a chance to try that yet, but I'm looking forward to it. The one I'm mainly looking forward to there is actually, honestly, I do very little FaceTime, but that feature is supposed to be moving into Zoom and Cisco's WebEx and probably other video conferencing systems too. So I think that'll be kind of cool for people who want to, sit in the living room and talk to the relatives and have them be, well, not life size, but it's certainly bigger anyway. So that'll be fun. That'll be kind of fun. I will admit it's been kind of interesting, when I scroll through the features that Apple's, promised and delivered on in iOS 17. Relatively few of them have kind of percolated up in my everyday usage. We did just do a big tidbits article about the check-in feature, which I think is actually one of the cooler things. And for those who haven't seen it, this is basically like, when you were young, or actually probably a better example is when your kids go somewhere and you're like, text me when you get there. So check-in basically is a way of automating text me when you arrive. And so it allows you to set either a timer or a destination and be able to go, there's that Glenn article from Glenn, to be able to say, hey, if I don't, say that I've arrived or say that I've, my timer has gone off and I'm okay with that. Or if you do not arrive at your location, then it alerts the person who you've set up your check-in with via messages and says, hey, they haven't arrived. And, that's, of course, the problem is then what do you do when, your person hasn't arrived or hasn't checked in? Because that's the old, okay, now I know something is wrong, but is it more wrong than, their phone died? They lost they're in a tunnel and can't, their phone isn't getting any connectivity. We don't quite know how that's going to work out, but it seems like it's going to be a really, really good thing. And I can highly imagine particular relationships, children and parents, people where couples where one person may be a little bit unsteady on their feet or, just driving as well as they used to, where you become accustomed to setting a check-in whenever you want to make sure the person is okay.
This kind of expands the feature of sharing a map with ETA on it. And if you run into traffic, your ETA gets updated with the friend you're sharing to. And I even found that works with Android users. It started sending them text messages when I added an Android user to the ETA list.
Oh, really? I haven't tried ETA with an Android user. So it's very similar to that kind of feature. What's nice about this one is it does do the updating in terms of if you're delayed by traffic or whatever, but being able to do a timer. So one person in Tibbetts Talk actually said, his daughter runs cross country at a university, several hours away, and this seemed a little excessive to me, but he wanted to see if she could set a running route, and then it would tell him if she deviated from a running route. And speaking as a runner, I'm like, that's not going to work. I mean, you have to deviate from your planned routes for all too many reasons, many of them good reasons. But a timer would work well. You say, I'm going to go running for an hour. I'll be back. And, and as long, particularly if you've got your phone, if you're going to be delayed, you can just add 15 minutes or 30 minutes or whatever as you need to. But it will tell you if the person doesn't check in after that hour. So that's kind of a nice feature. So I think we're going to see a lot of use of this as people upgrade. The big thing is that both people have to have iOS 17. So, if it's, you got to make sure that all the phones in question. And then you can do it with anybody because you're doing it with messages. This is a messages. I mean, anybody, again, any Mac iPhone user using iOS 17. But you can you just start a chat and messages, and then you add a check-in. You tap the plus button, and then select check-in from the various things you can add to a message. So I think that's going to be cool. That's probably the most interesting feature, in fact, that I've really found in iOS 17. A lot of the rest of them, like reactions. So this is kind of fun briefly, but if you go like this in a FaceTime message, you go a little thumbs up icon, and if you do this, or I forget what it's like, you wave your hands or something, you get fireworks. It's amusing to do.
Rock and roll.
Rock and roll, yeah. I don't know what that is. Drum beat or something. It's fun to do once or twice, and after that, it feels to me like 14-year-olds are going to be all over this, and everyone else is like, "Yep, done with it." So cool that they can do it, and kind of an interesting use of the machine learning capabilities of the iPhone, but not really that interesting. So the feature that I've been trying to test, and I've completely failed on so far, is the live voicemail. This is kind of cool. Someone calls you, and if you don't pick up or you send them to voicemail, and they start leaving a voicemail, it starts transcribing their voicemail as they're like right on screen as they're leaving it. And then the beauty of it is that you can pick up again if you're like, oh, it is someone I want to talk to about what they're talking about. So the problem, I cannot. I mean, I've been able to fake it to make sure that the feature works, but whenever I actually get a phone call that I don't know who it is, and I tap the send to voicemail button, it doesn't work. Like the phone, they hang up. I mean, it's probably spammers, right? That's the problem. But I'm waiting for someone to leave me a voicemail message so that I can actually see them talking on my screen as I'm watching.
It's back to the old answering machine days. Bill,
right.
are you there?
My calls.
Yeah. And then when we went to digital voicemail, most of my early digital voicemails were my mom saying, "Steve, pick up, pick up." No, it doesn't work that way with digital voicemail. Now we're back.
Yep. So that's going to be a cool feature if it works. I mean, I assume it works. I just haven't got a chance to test it, so I'm a little miffed. But then again, voicemail is really one of those things where it feels like the world has changed. Perhaps not for the people who are in this conversation. We're still used to leaving messages, but when talking to younger people, they just don't do messages.
That could have been a text.
You text before calling, and then it's okay to call, and they'll pick up. So again, the world's changed, but at least Apple's given us some better voicemail. Another thing that I haven't quite been able to play with yet in a big way, because I need to get an appropriate stand, is this standby mode. I don't know if you guys have seen this. Basically, you take an iPhone and you put it in landscape mode, and you have it charging. It gives you a new view called standby, and you can have either one or two widgety kind of things. So it can be showing the time or a calendar or now playing or photos, things like that. And it's kind of like, I don't know, it's turning the iPhone into a little bit of a picture frame or, kind of utility device.
Clock radio.
And well, and so, because you can have it be playing music or whatever. And the reason why I haven't done it yet is that I'm used to using one of these cases, the Smartish wallet case, which prevents MagSafe from being used because it holds my credit cards and everything in the back. I like this case a lot. But to use MagSafe, I have to pop the phone out. The reason why I have this here is because the phone's out there on the MagSafe holder to use it for continuity camera. So what I think is going to, will be necessary to make this into a really useful feature is to be able to have like a little MagSafe stand on my desk or by the bed or whatever, so that I can just pop the phone in there. And then the thing I'm going to do to make this easier, rather than having to pop the phone out every time, is get a different case that has a MagSafe wallet. So basically, I can just use the phone normally and then take the wallet when I go out. But have not gotten around to that yet. And we'll see. The MagSafe wallets in the past have never quite worked in my testing. They're just not. There's something about them which is they don't quite work, and when I'm going in and out of pockets. But we'll see. So standby mode is kind of cool. We'll see how well it works if you can get all the parts and pieces to be able to put it together. Apple makes a big deal about interactive widgets, but how many people here use widgets on their iPhone, their lock screen? Anyone?
Yeah.
Stephen, okay. I have widgets on my lock screen. Again, I can't look at my phone to tell you what, but I just, realistically, they're too small. And because they're in like white text on whatever the background of the lock screen is, I can't really read them. So all they are is just a way of tapping to get to that app. Like I have a weather one, and it's just a way of getting to my Carrot Weather app more quickly. So I'm a little down on the concept of widgets, lock screen widgets right now. With iOS 17, they've got interactive home screen widgets at least, and again, haven't seen huge utility to the widgets in a big way for my usage anyway. So we'll see if that makes a difference.
They were talking about that on MacBreak, where you can tap off a list rather than opening your Notes app and moving to the list page and then checking the thing you just finished. You'll be able to do it right now on the widget on your home screen.
As long as you can fit 3 items, you only have 3 items on your list. As I said, all these things seem like nice ideas, but they never quite end up working for me. The other problem when I like my reminders list, I usually have 5 or 6 things on it that sit on it because I haven't actually finished them, and so having that be interactive isn't actually having them on a widget is never helpful for me. But I'm just clearly not good enough at finishing stuff on my list. The other thing I haven't been able to test yet is name drop, where you can transfer your card by holding it, your iPhone close to someone else's iPhone. And again, if I ever go to a conference again, that will be fabulous. Until I do, probably never get a chance to use it. So it does feel like you got to be in the right situation for that. But the things that they changed, they're a little bit more likely to be noticed. Actually, there's some different stuff in the keyboard. So the prediction autocorrect is supposedly better. Honestly, I'm not sure I've noticed it because I never really used it significantly before. I mean, I know what I want to say, and it's the prediction is seldom what I want to say. But I do appreciate they've got better icons to indicate that your microphone is on for dictation. I use dictation a great deal, and that's been very good. I am still sad though that people have realized this. There's actually 2 ways of doing dictation on the iPhone. There's the standard one, when you tap the little microphone button on the keyboard, but there's also voice control, which is an accessibility feature. And the utility of voice control is that you can edit as well. So you can actually do things like, say, capitalize this word, capitalize Apple, and it will do that. And if there's multiple instances of the word Apple in your document or what you're typing, it will ask you which one to capitalize and things like that, and just say the number. So I will admit that I do kind of miss the fact that voice dictation is still significantly better than the normal dictation. Any questions? Actually, feel free to, I can't see everybody at once on screen, so speak up if you want to have a question or something I'm asking, because I'm not necessarily going to see hands. For whatever reason, the lounge is only showing me 6 people at a time.
Okay, 12. Hang on just a second. Adam, what computer do you have?
27-inch iMac.
Intel? Yes, it has to be. Okay.
Okay.
Because I'm on a 14-inch M1 Pro, and I've got 12 video screens.
Oh,
so
okay.
It depends on your graphics card.
I do have the M1 MacBook Pro on the other side of the desk, but too late for that.
Because we keep wondering how many the maximum is, and no one's had a video card that can push it yet.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yep.
So so it's just, I mean, that's one of those things that just shows you how much faster the M series really are.
Yeah, and this is only an M1.
Yeah, really.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those situations where I have the M1 MacBook Air and this is a 2020 27-inch iMac, and they're both fine. You know, like, I mean, the M1 is probably faster, but the 2020 iMac is really just fine for everything I do. And so, as much as I kind of want a new Mac, there's no reason for me to get a new Mac.
Yeah.
Particularly because then I'd have to buy a studio display, or I have 3 27-inch iMacs in the house, 2 of which aren't in use at all, and I might try the hack technique of turning them into monitors. It's a lot of surgery to turn, but they're such great monitors. Why wouldn't you want to?
Yeah.
I do wish there was an easier way of ripping out the motherboard and making them monitors.
And then
what about
so
running
some of the question?
Open Core Legacy? You tried Open Core Legacy on it?
Well, the problem is
Open Core Patcher. I'm sorry.
Open Core, yeah.
Apple discontinued Target Display Mode in 10.13. So if you're running anything later than that, it doesn't work.
It's not even that. The Target Display Mode only works on like the 2011 iMacs or something like that. It's the latest model that it works on.
Yeah.
So it's never worked on the 27 inches, no matter what you do. So, the machines work fine. They can't be upgraded to the latest things, but they're 2014 models. They're just not fast enough at this point.
Yeah, that's what the Open Core lets you do, is install the newer OSs unsupportedly.
Yeah. I will say, if you do that, it's certainly fine to try to keep the machines up. If things get weird, developers will be irritable with you. Rich Siegel, who's the developer of BB Edit, I've seen him complaining about people just having the wackiest problems. Then he finds out they're running Open Core Legacy Patcher, and great. I am not debugging for someone who's hacking a new version of the operating system onto their Mac. So got to be a little careful with those.
Yeah, well, you just have to know that it might not be supported, whatever it is.
That's right. Your problem. Use at your own risk. Doug, did you have a question?
Yeah, thank you. iPhone 12 mini running 16.6.
Okay.
There are times of the day when I have 5 pages of apps. And there are certain times of the day when I can only view 2 of those pages. And the rest of the apps are all in that bulk library.
Mm-hmm.
So I can find the apps. It's just, we've played with, sleep time or I don't know why at certain points it switches to being able to see just 2 pages of apps versus 5.
The reason is focus. Right. Yeah, there's a feature it's what replaced Do Not Disturb a couple of years ago. Can't remember exactly which version of iOS it's called Focus. And one of the additions, I think it was in iOS 16, in fact, is one of the things you can set with Focus. Again, I can't look at my iPhone to see what this is. But one of the things you can set with Focus is which home screens display.
Okay.
And so you must be ending up in a Focus that, for whatever reason, has 3 of them that are not showing. I am not a fan of Focus, and I would encourage you to take it off, to delete any focuses that you're not using really intentionally. The only ones that I consider really worthwhile are just basic Do Not Disturb, driving, and sleeping. Once you get into the others, it creates exactly what you run into, which is it makes your iPhone unpredictable.
Yeah. You're supposed to be focusing on work, so hide the app, the page that has Facebook on it.
Right. As I said, it's a nice idea, and it's one of those things. When Apple did it, I was like, wow, I see why they did it, and I hate it. Because it creates a situation where people are like, how come I don't see this? And I'm like, well, the reason is always focus. You've done something somehow that some person doesn't go through. Like, you can't receive phone calls because this focus is on, and you're angry about that. So yeah, delete all focuses unless you know exactly what they're there for.
We had a weird issue with someone not getting audio in some apps, but other apps would work fine. And it turns out they had muted the YouTube video in one of the tabs in Safari. And so YouTube was trying to be helpful and muting all of the audio. but the iTunes app worked, and other other music apps worked, but not Safari.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, one of the things that is really becoming, I won't say it's a problem exactly, but it is something to be aware of, is that these systems have just gotten a lot more powerful over time. And the more you can do with them, the more likely it is that something can get wacky. We've created so many possibilities that they're just not as simple as they used to be.
And they keep trying to add features to improve your life by guessing what you want to do. And when it guesses wrong, it's horrible.
Yeah, precisely. That's one of those issues that just is going to get people at some point or another. So I guess I get this asked a lot. Like, when should you upgrade to iOS 17? And I'm actually going to have to switch AirPods here because I am losing battery in this one. So let me see if I can do this. I'm not going to be able to hear. You'll not be able to hear me at all. Here's one.
Can you still hear us? Yeah. That's one of the biggest complaints I hear from Alex Lindsay on MacBreak, is that he has so many AirPods Pro, AirPods this, AirPods that the phone just tends to randomly switch to some device he doesn't have on at the moment, and that really annoys him.
Now we're not hearing Adam now.
He's
switching.
Now he's going to a headset. Now you got to change the audio
can't
input.
Hear you.
Yeah, change the audio input in Mastermind. The little down arrow on the speaker icon will let you change your
Can't
voice.
hear you.
Nope, not yet.
Nope.
Sorry.
There you are.
Try that.
Yep.
Okay.
There. Okay.
So interestingly, that was that's a Mastermind Lounge thing, because I was set to default my Sennheiser USB headset, but I had to select the Sennheiser headset directly instead of just going with the default. Okay. Yeah, my AirPods Pro are they're old and weak, and they were just used for a meeting just before this, so they didn't have that much time to recharge.
And I've heard some stories about recycling companies that have literally tens of thousands of AirPods they could put a new battery in and resell, but people didn't take Find My Device off, and so now they can't resell them, and so they're just stuck in a recycle pile somewhere.
Yeah, it's one of those, like, the unintended consequences of, like, making it so people can't just steal your AirPods, which probably would happen a huge amount otherwise, and then suddenly, people don't remember this. It does feel like, there'd probably be a way of Apple could remind you periodically, hey, you have this old device that you haven't used in 6 months. Would you like to take it out of your, take it out of Find My and let you do that?
I do like that they remind you every now and then about your phone number, your trusted phone number. If you change phones, you can't log into any new device anymore because it's going to your old trusted number you don't have anymore. We've got a lot of clients who don't remember what that phone is, and it's long gone, so they can't log back into their Apple account because they never had any other security information set up.
Yeah.
So it reminds you, is this still your phone number? I think Google has started doing that too. And is this still your recovery address? Because that Yahoo address you used 20 years ago, I used only 20 years ago.
Yes, extremely useful to be able to pull that kind of stuff out. So in any event, I guess where I was going before we got sidetracked by my AirPods dying on me. The question is, like, should you upgrade to iOS 17, and when should you upgrade? And I do think the question is a when. I mean, there is no benefit to sticking on iOS 16 for some, like, oh, it's the best operating system ever kind of thing. You want to be using iOS 17 at some point. it's got better. It does have more features. It's kind of better in most ways. That said, there's no harm in waiting until 17.1 comes out or anything like that. There have been, a few little issues. There's actually another bug that I'm tracking right now, where iPhones shut off in the middle of the night for a few hours. And you know this because when you pick it up in the morning, it asks you for it says, I need, you have to have your passcode when the phone restarts. And you're like, oh, why didn't restart it in the middle of the night? And if you go look at the battery usage, you can see, it's climbing. And then there's just like 6 hours of dead. And then it starts again. So there's something going on, and yes, Apple will undoubtedly fix it. But it's sort of a bug that doesn't really cause any problems because you're asleep. It's asleep. What does it matter?
Yep.
I'm always up in the middle of the night. What would happen then?
If you're using it, I assume it'd be fine. I think it's just if you it's sitting by the bed, just being plugged in and charging all night, that's when it seems to die.
One of the biggest caveats I always try to remind people is check the apps you rely on, especially in a business. Make sure they're compatible before you upgrade. Because downgrading is doable, but it's a pain.
And it's only doable for a certain amount of time, too. At some point, Apple pulls the certificates necessary to be able to install the previous version manually. So, yeah, always worth checking the apps. It is interesting. I think, I'd be curious, how many people run into that. My experience is iOS developers are usually pretty quick about updating their stuff. So they've got, it's not like this is a surprise to any of them. Put it that way. Apple pushes this stuff pretty hard starting in June when they release the developer betas. So everyone has plenty of time to do this kind of stuff. So yeah, so that's I would encourage an upgrade. And also again these like the overheating bug aside and this one with the shutting off aside. I've been using iOS 17 since sometime during the betas, and I've noticed basically no issues. It's just working the way iOS always does, and the new features haven't exactly made my life suddenly better. But everything I did before has continued to work just fine, so I haven't really had any issues on the negative side either. Any other question? Oh, sorry, go Steve.
I was just looking at for my 11 Pro Max. They've already unsigned 16, 17.0 and 17.01. So
interesting.
I cannot go back to 16 anymore.
Yeah, I think they've started doing that pretty quickly now. I think it's more like they give you a week or two to make sure that some horrible thing didn't happen, and then they're like, "You're done." But for those who are running 16, note that you just got iOS 16.7.1 released yesterday or the day before, I can't remember which, and those are security update releases. The two bugs are pretty bad in the sense of like they're serious, but they're not the sort of thing that everyday users are going to be, targeted for. The Apple's had a bunch of these releases recently, where the releases come out, they only fix 2 or 3 security vulnerabilities, and the reason is because spyware like Pegasus, which is this Israeli program that allows, frankly, bad governments to break into compromise the phones of journalists and activists and dissidents. Pegasus has taken advantage of these bugs and to be able to compromise phones. And so as soon as Apple or anyone else discovers one of those bugs, they release an update, even if normal people will never be targeted by Pegasus. I mean, this is really the kind of thing that you have to be, a foreign government has to be unhappy about you. Or
your own government.
Or your own government. Our government claims they do not use Pegasus. There's probably other things like it, but the FBI, I believe, did trial Pegasus, but they decided not to get it. And NSO Group, which is the Israeli company behind Pegasus, is definitely one of those not so nice companies that has been put on lists by the U.S. administration. Apple sued them actually about 3 years ago, and I cannot find any indication of what happened to that suit. It just seems to have disappeared. So you would think that something would have happened in the intervening couple of years, but nothing yet. So yeah, so I would update to iOS 17, sometime in the next, month to 2 months, certainly by the end of the year. There's no point in waiting at that point. Everything will almost certainly be updated unless you use some old app that is not being developed anymore, which is a wholly another situation. Any other questions about iOS and iPhones and the like? Cool. All right. Well, Sonoma is an entirely different story. Just to get it out of the way, because it doesn't sound like anyone's using it. Although Sonoma's, actually pretty good as far as big macOS updates go in terms of upgrading. It's still definitely, you want to hold off on Sonoma until probably, December, possibly the end of the year. And waiting for a couple updates to come out would be nice. We haven't seen anything yet. And just in general, it takes Mac developers a little longer. And it's more likely that you've got some really old software that isn't compatible. So I would hold off on Sonoma. It's also a smaller update, even than iOS 17. I've heard people calling it a snow leopard-like upgrade, where they put more effort into the polish and the fit and the finish rather than into actually like major new features. It's not like we got APFS or something, huge under the hood, or even Ventura with its new system settings, which is still an abomination. That sort of stuff just hasn't changed in Sonoma. It's the big new feature they promote on the very top of their page: screensavers, yay! So,
did you see Jason Snell's article he did for on his 6 colors about system settings? He said just have one big thing that says search. I don't know where anything is. I'm not going to go through that whole list because I can't find it anyway. I just search for everything. You don't need any of those buttons, just a big thing that says search.
That's what you have to do. I mean, when I was fiddling with my sound input volume for you guys a little earlier, I was the same thing. I was like, I don't know where this is, sound. Where's sound? I can't find it. There is one thing that you can do if you don't want to search all the time. A nice little trick, which people just don't think about, which is, even though system settings, this was true of system preferences too, you think of it as only being a window, but it actually has menus too. So if you go up to the view menu in system settings, it lists a whole bunch of them alphabetically. So at least you have a chance of like scanning and finding them. I find the organization that Apple has come up with, I get that it's sort of like iOS, but it's bad in iOS too. That the way they've come up with the organization of these things just doesn't make a lot of sense. And so that's why you have to scan the entire thing. I personally think they should just at least alphabetize it within the sections, which they don't do. So you get desktop and dock, displays, that's alphabetical, then wallpaper, okay, and then screensaver, and then energy saver. I have to think to figure out how those are related, first of all, and then I have to sort through each one to figure it out. Maddening. But yes, just do searches. Searches are the way to go about it. And the other thing that gets me, as long as we're complaining, whenever you open system settings, it opens to appearance. Why appearance? Why not remember the last one I went to? Just maddening. I can't imagine why appearance is like suddenly the best one ever. I mean, maybe you can switch dark and light mode, but I never switched to dark mode.
And it's not even alphabetically first.
No, it's like, it's switched to appearance, which is, it's not even alphabetically. It's in the third. It's second alphabet. It's the second item in the third list. Just freaking random. I'm sorry. Like, whoever came up with this should just be slapped silly with wet noodles.
Adam?
Yeah.
Is there any progress with merging iOS with Mac OS?
There will be no merging of Mac OS and iOS.
Okay.
It's not going to happen.
That 50-foot no behind Phil Schiller.
Yeah. No, it's just not going to happen. I mean, so that said, Apple is trying in ways to make the experience more similar. So that's where we got system settings, right? It's not that it's trying to merge iOS in any way. It's just like, oh, we have a lot of people who actually came to the Mac because they had an iPhone or an iPad first. It makes sense to have Mac OS be more familiar to them. And it wasn't like system preferences was good, don't get me wrong. I mean, it's just we were really used to it. And stuff couldn't hide on you. I mean, you could see it all there. So like system preferences was not the be all and end all in some way, but there, Apple really is not in any way trying to merge the operating systems, because the machines do too many different things. An iPad just can't do what a Mac can do, as especially when it comes to external hardware and all of that. So I would not stress about that. You will not see a merger there.
Although it almost is going the other way. With the Apple Silicon Macs, you can run a lot of iOS apps.
Yeah.
And in the early days, there was fear that developers wouldn't bother making a Mac app because you can just run the iOS app.
But it turned out the iOS apps are always kind of lousy. So not really true, but the fact is that they're not as significant apps most of the time. They're mostly kind of little apps.
Yeah. Adam, I have a question with Sonoma. I do have Sonoma on my computer. And everything is swimmingly. Runs fine. The issue with the screensaver, I had used Arial screensavers. With the screensaver, do they get rid of being able to use a third party?
No, it's just hidden. I'm not running Sonoma on this iMac yet, so I can't exactly double check this. But I'm pretty sure that basically they just show up at the bottom of the list. So if you have third-party screensavers, like personally, I prefer Electric Sheep. I think Electric Sheep is the best screensaver.
I see it. Okay, you got to go.
This is one of the problems with system settings, is that you can have some fairly significant scrolling necessary, but by default, there's no indication that there's scrolling is needed. Now that is something you can turn on in Appearance.
That's why it sends you
show scroll bars. Yeah.
Always. That's why it sends you to Appearance every time, so you can turn on always.
turn on scroll bars always. The only reason why I turn off scroll bars sometimes is because sometimes I want to take screenshots that are just cleaner looking because there's no scrolling to be done, and they still a scroll bar showing. So that's the reason. But yeah, system settings is maddening in that, trying to know when you can scroll and when you can't and all that.
Because when I take a look at the wallpapers, you have to click on Show All for each section. And then when you get down to the bottom, I now see my Arial.
Yeah.
Screensaver. So
the other thing that's annoying with the screensavers is that not all of them are downloaded by default, and you have to notice that little cloud icon to download that screensaver.
They're a fair amount of data. I don't know what the total number is, but I'll bet it's a gigabyte, a couple of gigabytes or so by the end. So it makes sense that Apple's not forcing you to do it, but nonetheless, I need to double check something. I always run into this on these meetings. I get muted. Okay, can you still hear me? I can't hear you. That's the problem.
You can't hear us.
There we go. Back. Okay. No, I have my machine set to it always mutes itself at 10 o'clock or 9 o'clock or something like that. And because I don't want it play, I don't want a sound to go off, when I'm potentially, asleep or something like that. And so the problem is I can run into trouble with it getting muted at the wrong time when I'm doing a later presentation. So okay, better. I just saw things starting to happen. All the scheduled stuff starts to kick off at 9:30. But yeah, so Sonoma, again, really not that significant a change. So like when you do make the upgrade, if you're upgrading from Ventura, you're probably not going to notice like major stuff. There's some cosmetic-y things like the wallpapers and the screensavers and whatnot, but it's not going to be a really big change that you're going to feel on a regular basis. Again, you get the reactions in the video conferencing, woo, and there's a new version of Safari, but you can get that for Monterey and Big Sur as well. So if you want Safari 17, you can. That's Apple will be giving that to you in an upgrade if you want it. So you'll be able to get some of the new password capabilities and web apps. Really kind of cool. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's we always sort of like Apple can kind of do no right in some ways. Either the upgrade is too big and everyone's like, oh, too much is changing, I don't like it, or it's not very interesting because not that much changed. So it's a funny little funny spot Apple can run into with various different types of users, and I honestly sort of fall into the category of not caring very much because everything I do in apps, and I don't tend to use Apple's apps. I don't use Mail, I don't use Safari, and so as a result, everything that I'm doing just keeps working the way it always did. And that I find when I switch to a new version of macOS, I'm like, oh, yep, everything works the way it always did. Guess I'm happy. So that's all good. But any other questions about Sonoma or upgrading or other Mac stuff?
Probably should mention that eventually your OS you're running on will stop getting its security updates. Apple typically runs the current and one OS previous, maybe two. So
it's usually two, and yeah, we're doing good so far. So now, yeah, we're back to Ventura and Monterey, not Big Sur. Big Sur got dropped off the train. So yes, so if you're still running Big Sur, that's a reason to consider upgrading. But remember, you can always upgrade to whatever the latest thing the machine will run. But if you want to upgrade to an interim one, that can be a little bit trickier. You can do it, but it's often not worth the effort. That it's not like there's people get into this. Oh, Catalina was the best version of the operating system. I don't want to go past Catalina and or Big Sur or whatever. It's usually not worth doing that, and you're just going to cause yourself more headaches in the end. So I almost always recommend that people, when you've decided you need to upgrade to whatever the latest is if you can, or the latest that you can run anyway.
We had a customer bring a machine in that was running Lion.
10.7.
10.7.
Wow.
Didn't even do the Mountain Lion patches. And so he wanted to know why his computer was so slow and didn't work on websites. Because you're running Lion.
Okay, I'm going to butt in here. My MacBook is 2017. Can that handle Sonoma?
No, I don't think so.
2018.
I'm pretty sure it's in 2018. Yeah. So you would be stuck at Ventura in that case.
Thank you.
And a lot of people complain about that. Why is my computer not compatible? And it's usually something to do in the chip. The level 2 cache, level 3 cache, how many processor cores does it have? If you tried installing that OS on that model computer, it would be so slow, you'd get mad at Apple, and they don't want that.
Yeah.
Which is what that open core lets you do, is, it tricks the system into thinking it can install, so then when it runs too slow, don't blame Apple.
Yeah, it's really true. I mean, Apple, it's interesting because I think people, they want these things to work forever.
Mm-hmm.
and realistically, they probably will work forever. I mean, more or less. The machines will not likely fail at this point, particularly now that we've gotten rid of hard drives in almost everything. Hard drives were the real weak point.
The spinning drives, yeah.
Yeah, but the fact of the matter is that the world moves forward, and in terms of operating systems and software, and these days in terms of internet connectivity, that when Steve said that the guy he couldn't connect to websites, that's one of those things that people don't think about. That they don't think, oh wow, if I don't upgrade my stuff, I won't be able to connect to websites. But browsers need security certificates that allow the HTTPS, whenever you see that in the URLs, basically allow the secure HTTP to be able to work. And so if they can't get updated certificates because they're too old, that's when the websites stop working. And so you really do have problems.
We're also starting to see mail providers, Google and AOL, requiring OAuth for mail authentication. And so you can't use generic IMAP anymore with some of the providers. For a long time, Google had this allow insecure apps setting. And then they turned that off a couple years ago, and we got a surge of people who I can't get to my Gmail anymore. And that's because it's now OAuth, and you have to sometimes upgrade your OS because it's too old to understand this new technology from 10 years ago.
Yeah. So it really is a case where, Apple does a pretty good job of keeping things supported as long as they can, and sometimes even without full features. So I did this article, probably back, sometime in the summer, called "The Real System Requirements" for Apple's 2023 operating systems, because in fact, they say, oh yeah, 2018 on is good, but if you look at the fine print, well, these features require Apple Silicon, and these features require this and that and the other thing. And the same is true for the iPhone and the iPad. So you can easily run into a situation where a machine can, an iPhone can run iOS 17, but it's not going to have the same features as a modern one. So that's so this is a really interesting article to research, because it's like, what are the details, and also you can see a little bit of what's been dropped off the train. So you can see that the iMac 2017 and later was fine in Ventura, but it was now 2019 and later for Sonoma.
And that doesn't sound like that long ago, but it kind of is.
It kind of is, and that's the pandemic's fault.
Yeah.
I mean, we really lost a year or 2 years in all of our little mental math calculations of how long ago something was. And because I've had that same realization, you're like, oh yeah, for us, it's you can think, oh, 2017, that was just a couple of years ago. Oh, well, actually, it was 6 years ago, and suddenly that's a whole lot longer than we think. So yeah, so if you're interested in the what features you'll be able to use along with the specifics of the hardware, that article has everything you need to be able to look through that.
What is LIDAR?
LIDAR is it's basically it's the light equivalent of sonar. Right?
And
so
radar.
Sonar is bouncing sound waves off of something, and LIDAR is bouncing light off of something and having it bounce back. Apple uses LIDAR in the iPhone sensor array to be able to do certain kinds of things with Face ID and I'm not even entirely sure all the things that it can do. Some of the computational photography stuff undoubtedly is using LiDAR too. The augmented reality stuff, so when it's like being able to sense where it is in a room, it's bouncing light waves off of the walls, that kind of stuff. So you'll find a few features that need LiDAR, and it really basically just comes down to certain iPhones. I think it's basically going to be the Face ID iPhones. I'm pretty sure they all have it.
So you can't find a lost city with the LiDAR in the phone.
You can, but you have to be high enough up.
Yep.
And you have to have your iPhone plugged in.
A helicopter or with a drone, right?
The drone, and it said your iPhone has to be plugged in so it has enough power. Once you do that, then yes, you can find lost cities.
Then you go to the ground penetrating radar.
Hey, the fact that they can do satellite from an iPhone, I'm not holding out. I'm not betting against ground penetrating radar.
Well, everybody wants to make that simpler instead of dragging something over the ground, kind of thing that's heavy when there might be rocks in the way and trees and stuff. So yeah, where there's a will, there's a way, right?
One of the things that I have. Sorry, go ahead.
I just ran across an interesting article about a horrendous Tesla crash, and apparently Elon Musk decided that Tesla's autopilot did not need LiDAR, and this crash happened because the Tesla could not see a semi across the road in front of it.
Yeah, I actually follow robocar stuff quite a lot, and the Tesla's been very adamant, and because Musk says basically, oh, computer vision basically will be able to use the cameras to be able to see well enough to do all this stuff, and it's basically all fancy processing. And the reason for that is that the LiDAR arrays, if you see the robocars, it's like the stuff they tend to put on top in a little rotating thing. Those are expensive. I think they cost a couple $1,000s, the LiDAR arrays. So what Cruise and Waymo and the other robocar companies have done is they've said, yeah, we want LiDAR, because LiDAR, you can see through, you can see in the dark completely. And it's not very high resolution, but it's just fine to be able to see objects that you shouldn't be hitting. So most people disagree with Musk about the utility of computer vision being sufficient, and I think we will see LiDAR being in in all the real robocars as they come out.
And we were talking about OS features that Apple puts in. I came across one just this week that I wasn't really, I guess I had forgotten about it, but I was in my email and I noticed that this email that I had sent out maybe 4 days ago suddenly was there, and it was from me to someone, and I wondered, how is this here? Is somebody hacking me? Are they spoofing my email? What's going on? So I looked it up online, and it turned out that, that's a new feature that Apple had put into the OS, where if there's an email that hasn't been processed by the person at the other end, it pops it back in at the top of your list to remind you that, you might want to do a follow-up email to this person.
Well, I noticed that myself.
Yeah, yep. And so I found out how to disable that particular feature, so it will never bother me ever again.
Yeah, Gmail does the same thing in the Gmail app, and I find it. I leave it on because I'm actually kind of intrigued by what it decides to pull out. Like, I want to see how it works. It's never pulling out anything that I'm not already aware has either not been replied to, or I actually don't care. Most of the time is don't care. But yeah, that's one of those things where, how does it know which obviously it's something you sent and you didn't get a reply, but it's stuff in what you say you sent as well. It's actually analyzing the text to make it to decide if it thinks you should have gotten a reply. So it's not just like, everything that didn't get replied to. Yes.
So you can turn it off for an individual message, or you can turn it off, period, in the mail settings.
Like that might be if there was a question in your email,
Yep.
Yeah,
precisely. I'm sure there's a whole bunch of either rules or some level of machine learning to figure that out.
But it was just so strange that they turned it on by default, and then freaked out everybody, including me.
How else would you have found it? Yeah, I mean, that's the problem, right? They put these things in.
I didn't want it in the first place.
So it actually came out in iOS 16 and Mac OS Ventura, and so it was one of these new features that they added in that giant 500 feature list. And so why it started working for you now when it came out a year ago is an interesting question.
Now, one thing that Apple did with Sonoma that's quite nice, and iOS 17 and iPadOS 17 and watchOS 10, is they produced a PDF that lists all the new features with more detail. And Steve, you can probably find that, show them that easily. It's in the feature page. And it's a little link in the upper right corner. But I like these PDFs a lot because they're a much better just summary of all the stuff that's new in these operating systems. Because so often you get in, again, you get this operating system, you're like, okay, how do I find out what's new? And there are big long reviews that you could read, but there are tons and tons of pages. But these PDFs are, they're still 10 or 11 pages, but they're nice little short summaries that tell you the details about all the features. Well worth reading.
Goes on and on and on and on.
Yeah, that's a lot of new features. I mean, admittedly, most of them are pretty minor. Or you're like, I really don't care about stickers and messages.
How do you access those PDFs?
So they're for each page, for each operating system, Apple has a page. Like there's the Sonoma page, and it's on the upper right corner of that page.
So it's like at apple.com?
Yeah.
/macOS. Yeah.
If you just Google on like macOS Sonoma or iOS 17 and go to the page at Apple site, you'll find it.
Thank you.
All righty. Well, any other questions that people have? Anything you're curious about? Everyone's getting tired, I can tell.
So can I say 16, and is that page still there? Nope, it sends me to 17.
Nope. That's one of those things. Yeah, Apple's not big on history. That stuff goes away. You have to use the Wayback Machine if you want to see the 16 page.
It's probably in a tech note somewhere.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm betting those all went away.
Probably,
and I've never seen them. They've never seen them do this before in terms of these PDFs.
Yeah, I haven't seen the PDF before, but they often had a page that lists all of the features. All 300 features on a list.
So if you go to that what's new in the updates for Ventura, the second link down, the next one down. I believe the first, if you go all the way to the bottom of this page, I think the first update will have more. Yeah, it's not quite as big as that. It's not as big as that PDF, but it's still, a summary of all the new features in Ventura there. So they do have some of that kind of stuff. Oh, excuse me.
Yeah, I guess that's a little clue that maybe we should end it. I've seen a few yawns and.
I have one question.
Yes, please.
You were talking about the 27-inch iMacs.
Yes.
I have two 2020 iMacs. That's 27 inches.
Yes. Great.
How long do you think they're going to be supported by Apple?
It's a good question. Apple, I believe, said when they came out with the first M1 Macs that they anticipated maintaining Intel versions of the operating system for, I think, 3 to 5 years after the transition was complete, and the transition only completed in June with the Mac Pro. June, July, something like that. I can't remember quite when the Mac Pro came out. But the point is that so we've probably got, my guess is at least 2 or 3 more years of Intel support. And partly you can think of it as like, look, we're down to like 2018 this year, so 20, and actually on the iMacs it's 2019 this year. So my guess is we'll have 2020 for the next 2.
Generally,
so after Sonoma, and then one after that, and then there'll be security updates after that.
Generally speaking, hardware is supported for 5 years after it's discontinued, after which it's considered obsolete.
So that's mostly service, though.
Yeah, and parts, except in California where it's 7 years.
and France, where it's
but yeah,
forever.
vintage is 5 years, and and then 7 years is obsolete. And every month, Apple publishes a new list of all the devices that are entering the vintage and obsolete arena.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, what ends up getting supported in the operating systems is, again, Apple tries to keep stuff supported, but the more features they're going to add that rely on the M series chips, they may keep, Mac OS, we're at 14, Mac OS 16 may run on the 2020 iMacs, but we may not actually get a bunch of the features. Yeah, so that's the question: is do the features matter, or you're like me and you just want to run your apps and it doesn't matter? So
we're starting to see that now. The iMac 2018 at a minimum, and 2019 for some features is the requirement for Sonoma. So next year it'll probably jump forward a couple more years.
Yeah, it's like the more features they add to the OS, the more things they break, the more apps break, and all the developers are always pulling out their hair for that reason.
But at the same time, the developers like the new stuff because they want to play with the coolest. So, it does go both ways. I mean, developers do want these capabilities, and Apple has gotten itself onto this treadmill of the annual releases. So there's no good way off of it. Less so from the Mac standpoint, but the iPhone in particular, they have to update. It's a competitive situation with Android and Samsung and whatnot. And if you look at a lot of what changes in the new feature in the new operating systems, it's cross-platform. So if we're going to have a new version of iOS, we kind of have to get a new version of macOS too. There's no real way to separate the two because they would be forced otherwise to do iOS only features, and a lot of that they don't want to do. So
I found their tech note. Did you know that the Apple One is an obsolete product?
Why, yes, I did. But if you've got one, it's very valuable.
Yeah. So this is obtaining warranty service, but it gives you the list of vintage and obsolete. So you can sort of see right now vintage is 2016, and obsolete is anything older than that.
Yeah, that's what basically Apple's saying. They don't need to have parts.
Yeah.
They might have parts. They're actually not. They're not guaranteeing that they don't have parts.
One thing they have done is they said they're going to support battery replacements for 10 years.
Yeah.
Although replacing a 10-year-old battery is expensive.
I mean, on the one hand, like people will say, "Oh, but my Mac is still working fine" or whatnot. But this really is for service, and service and parts. And so, like, if something that's that old breaks, really, just get a new one. It's okay. You don't need to fix your 2015 MacBook. It's really not worth it. And so, those are you will, if nothing else, I actually see people periodically who are kind of nursing along their old one, and they get, a new M2 MacBook Air or something like that, and they are blown away by how much better it is.
Even something like the $599 Mac Mini. So the iMac is only 24-inch. You want a bigger monitor? Mac Mini, it comes in an M2, so it's faster than the iMac anyway, and it has an M2 Pro option. So it's really $599. Plug it into your TV, and it's way faster than your old computer.
My wife actually replaced her 2014 iMac with an M2 Mac Mini and a Studio Display, and it's she thought about going to the M2 Pro, but just like couldn't justify it. For most people, it really, and most kind of normal apps, if you're not doing audio, video, that kind of stuff, just doesn't make much difference. So, she's been very happy with the M2.
We had a customer that was upgrading their medical EMR program, and the
cheapest thing ever.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
It's like whatever the cheapest Mac you can get.
Well, they had like 8 2012 Mac Minis that couldn't take the latest OS and therefore couldn't run the latest EMR, so we had to upgrade all of them. And then the server was a 2014, I think, Mac Mini. And so I asked him, is the M2 Mac Mini enough for the server, or should I get the M2 Pro? Is it worth $500 more to be a database server? And they never gave me a yes or no answer. They just said, you want to run the best computer you can. Okay, so
Wouldn't have made any difference.
So we got him an M2 Pro.
Yeah. All right.
Theoretically, it'll last longer.
Yeah, I was going to say I don't think it'll make any difference at all because I'm betting that database is single core driven. Because unless you're doing multi-core stuff, there's no difference between them.
It's a SQL-based database because I've seen some SQL commands go by.
Okay, maybe, but yeah. So you have to have the right application for the M series, the M2, the Pros and the Pro Mac, and the Max and the Ultra to make a difference.
Well, I did run into that on mine. I had a 2016 8-core i7 MacBook Pro, and doing my audio editing with Audacity took about 5.5-6 minutes to export as MP3.
Mm-hmm.
Then I got the 14-inch M1 Pro, 90 seconds.
Yeah.
And that was in Rosetta.
Yeah.
When Audacity upgraded to Apple Silicon, it lowered it to I think 60, 70 seconds. Not as dramatic as just being on the M1 to begin with.
Yeah. And yes, that might be something to be, even faster than M2 Pro or whatever. But, at some point, at what point does it make a difference? So, all right. Well, we're almost at 10, and I said I'm kind of losing confinement here. So, any last minute things before we go?
Thank you very much.
Oh, glad to be here.
Thank you, Adam. Always look forward to hearing your talk.
Nice to see you all. And one of these years we'll get dinner again.
Yep.
Yes.
That's good.
We'll probably have Chuck come next month, and if you want to drop by too.
We'll see what happens. Yeah. All right.
Well, thank you, and good night, Adam.
Good night. Yeah, see y'all.
All right.
Okay, you can formally end the meeting now.
Yes, I think that, let's see. I can give it 2 minutes and make it officially 10 o'clock.
Well, you can talk about what's happening next month.
That's true. Okay, well, let's...
next up, we got Chuck, right?
Yes, we do. Kind of thing. So we have Bob with his green apples on Saturday. I was thinking of coming to that, Bob, and having an in-person one, but I find I have to go get a COVID shot that afternoon. And so it's going to cut right into the time that would have been at your talk as far as me, coming. But we'll shoot for next month.
Maybe.
We'll see what happens when the date rolls around. So so just a reminder that next week, of course, is our Apple Cider, our board meeting. And I guess we'll go from there.
And Bob's meeting is going to be all virtual, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. This time. We'll see. All right. Well, then I guess good night to everybody. And I guess we'll see a lot of you next week.
Good night.
All right.
Good night.
See you next week.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Bye.